Welcome to Resilience plus Rise, the podcast, where resilience is not just a concept, but it's a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, an ultra marathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode is a raw, unfiltered dive into the stories those who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. Today's guest, a privilege, a honor. I'm in loss of words, but listen to this, guys. A former Royal Marine commando. He has been injured in Afghanistan in 2008. He's a double amputee. He's been a motivational speaker. He is a TV personality. And also, he's a restaurant owner. In his spare time, he has run few London marathons. He has done the Everest Base Camp. He has taken over three peak challenges and ran the world's biggest poppy. To him, this quote is, it doesn't matter what happened to you yesterday. What matters is what you're going to do about it today. With this, I would welcome to Resilience plus Rise, the podcast, Ben McBean. Welcome to the podcast, Ben.
How you doing, guys? Cheers, Thomas, mate. Great to be here, man.
It's my, as I mentioned, a privilege, honor, and I'm so filled with pride having you on the other side of the conversation. So, Ben, you got quite a bit of stories. And you have, as I mentioned earlier, is that Resilience plus Rise is a podcast wherein we do talk about the belief in human spirit's ability to rise and the story who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. Tell me what happened in your life and what is it that makes you who you are?
Yeah, so, well, I got injured in Afghanistan and got burnt by a bomb, but the truth is that's not, I suppose, what's made me who I am. It's just something that happened to me, just like I broke my leg before, my injuries. I've had multiple setbacks as a kid, which I don't even talk about, really. So my life is just my life, and one phase of my life was I got blown up. It's just someone breaks a leg, someone fails a test, somebody fails a driving test, somebody, I don't know, gets divorced or whatever. My thing, one of my things, the multiple things that we all go through, one of them was I got blown up by a bomb and survived. So to talk about that, on the age of about 12, I wanted to be a Royal Marines commando. It's not necessary. You get the Royal Marines, you get the Paras, the RAF, the Navy, the Army. And people say, which is the hardest? They normally put it between the paratroopers and the Royal Marines, but I've always, it don't matter which is the hardest. It's whichever one you want to join. If you want to be an RAF pilot, there's no point me saying you weren't a commando. You didn't want to be a commando, so what does it matter? So you just join whichever one you want to join in. For me, I wanted to be a Royal Marines commando. I I went for it after I left school, pretty much. Got in first time, no issues, no dramas, no setbacks.
Okay.
Didn't even twist my ankle, nothing, not a blister. So yeah, it was almost like it was meant to be. I just bam, 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 and then next minute I was in Afghanistan, and that was back in 2007/8. And back then it was it was hard work, should we say. There wasn't so many IEDs and stuff. It was more gunfighting. It was more like running into buildings and stuff like that, rather than patrolling and someone getting blown up, so to speak. So it was a massive eye opener. I actually managed to get home for you have like an R&R, which is a rest and recuperation period. Mine was about 4 months into the tour out of a 6-month tour. So I'd done quite a bit of work, and then got back to the UK, and my friends were like, "Oh yeah, mate, like that." My friend had got a job in Tesco as a manager. My other friend was an accountant. My other friend didn't have a job. Some was still at home with their mum and dad, and then I was there with my little story in the pub, like, I've just been to war, but my story was so different. I couldn't really say anything, so I didn't. I was like, oh yeah, just all right, kind of thing. It was so like 1 minute you're literally fighting to death, then I'm in Weatherspoons having a beer. So
Okay.
it was hard to like. They wouldn't get it, and there's no point me saying, so I didn't bother. I just went, yeah, it just work. I went back 2 weeks later, and then about a week after that, woke up, had this really, not a dream or a vision, but just my own voice just said, "You're dead," like today, kind of thing. So I got up, got all my kit on. Nothing felt right at all. And the thing is, people say like, "Well, why would you go out there then?" But you can't. It's like if tonight you had a bad feeling that tomorrow you're gonna have a car crash, you couldn't now not leave the house. Like you still got to
True.
do stuff. Do you know what I mean? So do you believe it and stay in, or do you go out and see what happens? So I went out, and then yeah, within a few hours, we got to where the fight was going to begin, and we started scrapping. We got to a compound, and nothing was right. I already knew this before from hours ago, from when I woke up. But to the lads at the time, oh, this is a bit weird. But I'd woken up thinking that it was weird. We were supposed to blow a hole in the wall so we could climb through it. The hole was already there. So it was
Okay.
kind of like everything was just really weird, and we had a specific guy to blow a hole in a wall. We didn't need him. He was never with us, but he was there to do that one in particular job. And we got there, the hole was already there. So he shouldn't have been there anyway. And the guy who should have been there was back there because he replaced him, and it was all a bit like, oh. And then yeah, as we were getting to the actual compound itself, because you used to have like a perimeter, then you break through it, then inside there was the compound, like the building. So it's almost like a house with a big perimeter fence. You have to break into the fence, then run towards the actual compound, the building. And before we even got there was a guy in front of me called Stuart. There was me and another guy called Mark. And then boom. And then, yeah, I was upside down. And I assume my foot was caught in a tree. Because that's the only way, surely, you could be swinging from upside down, right? So that's just what my mind said. And that's what I believed. And I blinked a couple of times and then I was on the ground. Helmet was gone. I could barely breathe. People say, like, like there's an elephant stood in your chest. It was like that, but not an elephant, like a human. It felt like a person was just stood on my chest. So I could breathe, but barely. And I was trying to figure out how to breathe. So I was trying to unclip my body armor, but that's when I noticed I had a hole in my forearm. So my fingers weren't working properly. And then as I sat up to see what else I could do, my leg came up. It was my whole shin bone was exposed. There was no foot on the end. My kneecap was blown off. The inside of my groin was blown out. My left arm was hanging off. Had a big piece of metal sticking out of my chest, which I pulled out in the panic and should have left it in. But once I pulled it out, blood started pouring out, and I was just like, oh, I should have left that in. burnt my fingers in the process, and then it was just like, this is a nightmare. But yeah, I spent, you know, you hear some stories of heroics where I was doing this and doing that. I wish I did that, but I didn't. For the first 5 minutes, I was just debating on whether to cry or scream or shout, rolling around in agony. So not very heroic story, but eventually I crawled out of a ditch, and then got to one of my friends, but he was in a bad way. My other friend, half of his face was missing. And then, yeah, it was just a really horrible, disgusting situation. Blood and guts everywhere, everyone bleeding to death. And yeah, we just got together. We couldn't keep each other alive. We were all so messed up ourselves. There was no help you could give anyone. In training, you've got to put like a tourniquet on, stop the bleeding. None of us had any. We had about 1% strength between the three of us, which equal to 0. So yeah, it was just, until we get help, I think we're gonna die. And that's the reality of war. Some people do get killed and some people survive.
There are very few moments when I'm absolutely lost of words. I've had a talk with many people in my podcast, but not as, I don't have words. So, what happened then? So, by then you would have been picked up by the team and taken to the hospital.
Yeah, so we're still in like an enemy position, so we can't just get rescued. They've got to make sure that there's an enemy there, they deal with them. There's a massive dust cloud as well, so that has to settle. You can't just run into dust and run the wrong direction or set off a mine yourself. So you've got to wait for a few things to happen before you can even help. But eventually we got rescued. We got chucked on the back of a quad bike trailer. So no ambulance, just a trailer on a bike. Bodies get dumped in the back, dead or alive. And you get whisked back to a helicopter landing pad or site. Chinook helicopter will land, if they can land, pick you up, and they fly you off to back to where everyone begins, which is Camp Bastion. So when you actually go to Afghanistan, the first place you go is Camp Bastion. That's like the base of Afghanistan, and from there you branch out to different areas. So that's where I started, and then I ended up back there. So if you're a celebrity and you're gonna sing a song for like the troops, that's where you go, because it's
Okay.
you're in a war zone, but it's safe. It's the size of a city, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were there for 20 years, so it got bigger and bigger. The Americans were there, it got really big. So yeah, I got rescued. I went back there, and from there, that's when they try and save your life. Obviously, in my case, I was on the verge of death. All three of us were, really. And then they put me to sleep, so I was awake the whole time. So I only went to sleep when they literally put me to sleep. So I knew quite a lot of what had gone on. Then I blinked and I woke up in the UK with my arm and leg missing.
They tried to put you to sleep, and of course, I want to ask you, would you be able to even describe the pain, or there was no pain, or your brains were just absolutely numb, or
Yeah, you
and
know what's weird?
sorry, I don't know if these are the politically right questions to ask.
Yeah, nah, like the it's weird because some people say they were in shock, didn't feel no pain. I was in pain, so maybe I didn't go into shock. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 10. I couldn't even think straight at some points. That's how bad it was. I had sepsis about 3 years ago, and the pain from that was so bad. I was embarrassingly like rolling around on the floor and jumping out and stuff. Like, you can't control it. It was kind of that, but times about 5. I couldn't control the pain. I'm not Mr. Hardman, but I can handle a bit of pain. I've broken my leg before and not cried. I've just gone, oh, my leg's broken. But that pain was just, I'll probably never experience it again in my life. And I don't think many people will. It was, when people say it's agony, it's excruciating, like, I don't know if that's actually what it is, because I've experienced the worst pain you can experience and the worst visions. You know, if you broke your leg or twisted your knee or whatever, fine, but having your leg ripped off, seeing your bones, your blood, your guts, bits of flesh everywhere, flies all over it, the smell of blood, it smells like copper in the air. It's a horrible, intense smell. You're literally watching your body just gushing out blood. It's not like, yeah, you can't get any worse than that. And then you're on your own, no weapon, and you're in a war zone. So it's not like you call 999. You
No.
got enemy out there. So I've probably experienced the worst thing you can.
I
So yeah,
mean,
it was bad. It was bad, really bad.
Ben, I cannot even say, even I cannot imagine, because I won't be able to even imagine that particular type of I mean, as you
Mm.
mentioned, I'm in that set of friends who have got an accounting job, who's work got in Tesco, who's got things happening around the usual 9 to 8 to 5 or whatever that type of secured life is, and then suddenly something like this happens because our mind is not made to even comprehend. We may see it on TV, but again, to go through that, even to say the word empathize would be wrong because it is beyond our comprehension, at least for me. So the question that comes up over here is that when you realize you have lost not just one limb, but then two of your limbs, it was your hand and your leg, what was the thoughts that came to your mind?
Well, the leg I already knew was gone, so I wasn't too fussed because I'd already processed on the ground that my leg was gone. It wasn't like it's going to grow back. I'm not stupid, so it is what it is. But then my arm was hanging off, and I thought they might be able to save it. So when I woke up in hospital, and it was like I had a big bandage on my arm, probably the size of my arm.
Mhm.
And I have a thing called phantom limb pain and sensation, so I can still move all my fingers. So when I'm lying there moving my fingers, I thought, oh, at least I've got my arm as well. And then over the weeks, I was like, shit, like they're taking the bandage higher and higher, and I was like, my arm ain't that short, and that's weird because I can feel my fingers, and then the bandage kept coming up, and then it was obvious, but I think on medication as well, I was a bit confused. And then one day, like, it was right up here, and still I was confused. And then he took all the stuff off, and there's a big, massive scar there, and my arm was gone. And I was like, I didn't even, like, my parents were there as well. I didn't want to, like, scream in front of them, but I felt like just screaming. But my mum and dad and my uncle were there, and at the time I was trying to, like, yeah, I'm okay, kind of thing. So when I saw it, I just felt like just jumping out the window in the hospital. But just because they were there, I didn't. But I just felt devastated that the arm was gone. Mainly because I just thought it was there. And I think that was my little cling on to hope thing. So when it was gone, I was just like, shit. And if they probably weren't there, you can't open hospital windows anyway. But I probably would have just jumped out of it at that point. But my mum was there,
Jumping,
so I didn't.
jumping out of the window is one particular thought, but did you feel life cheated you?
I don't know. I don't know, because I chose to join the armed forces. I chose to go to war, and then now look at me. So it's kind of like my fault, but not, but kind of is. And it's taken about, and it might take 1,000,000 years before I get the answer. It may be in the next life, I don't know, but I'll always have frustrations. And like now I've got 2 kids, and I think I can't really run around with them, play football or swim properly. And I think, shit, if I didn't join up, this wouldn't have happened. But then I wouldn't have met my partner and then had the kids in the first place. And so it depends how like you want to look at it. I just look at it as what happened, and it is shit. I don't regret joining the armed forces, but obviously I wish I never got blown up. That's the truth of it.
So, what were your thought process that, okay, you said you do not have regrets, but then there would have been some thought process that would have allowed you to get into the next level and the next level, even because again in my podcast I have met many people, and then there are people as a coach I meet who get put on the cap of being a victim or a martyr. I have got people who believe that it is the life has given to them, life is happening to them, and for them to get out of that particular mindset is a different challenge. But when we come to the mindset about what you made to break that, I because you mentioned, okay, you had written yourself into the war, you knew there could be consequences, the extreme being that you could have been killed, but still when you wake up to the reality that you have lost all 2 limbs, now you're a double amputee, what did you create in your mind, in yourself, that helped you to grow further?
You know what? And I think it's not very motivational, but I think this is why a lot of people can relate to it. It's just called life goes on. You get people go through something and they make a point of trying to turn it into a motivational thing, which not everyone can relate to. You know, get up every day, get up at 5, do this, do that. The truth is, if you've got something to do, you get up and do it. It's called life. You either kill yourself or you crack on. So I wake up in the morning knackered and I think, oh, the kids want breakfast. So I just get out of bed. I'll do breakfast. And then the dog needs letting out for a piss. So I let him out. So then it's a school run. Then I've got to pick up dog shit off the ground and then de-weed the garden or put a wash on, nip to Tesco, get some milk. Like, when you got things to do, you just live life. Like, not everything's this motivational. I'm trying to grow a business. I'm trying to make 10 mil. I'm trying to do that. I'm just living life. I'm a double amputee. And I was at hospital and I had a prosthetic leg. And it was like, okay, put it on. And rather than get a wheelchair to the toilet, walk to the toilet and then walk to get some food and then learn to drive a car so I can drive to Tesco and get food. And then, like, put a wash on, wash my own clothes, you know, do the dishes. So the ultimate goal is just to get back to the basics. Anything after that, like going to Everest or winning a marathon, who actually cares? I don't even care. That was just my ego, which I had to feed at the time. No one cares. Who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? People care about if I was a good dad or Ben was a nice person. No one knows in the school queue if I ran the marathon. Do you know what I mean?
Ah, yeah,
But
true.
they just know if, like, oh, Ben always picks up big kids and all that, and he's funny or whatever. Like, that's it. No one else gives a shit. So I fed my ego for a couple of years, and now I live a normal life, and that's the ultimate goal. Just to get out of bed in the morning and not feel like I want to jump out a window. That's life, man.
So
Easy.
Ben, over here, I will stop our conversation because there is much more to unravel. If you could just give me a moment. So, guys, I will pause the podcast over here and we'll get into part 2 about what Ben considers a normal life and what he considers that he fed his ego to do. As I mentioned, something extra from the ordinary. For him, getting into the ordinary bit itself was a challenge. But getting into that extra made him today, when I look at him, Ben McBean, an extraordinary personality. So, Ben, thank you at this point of time for your space and time.